Hi guys, in this tutorial I will show you how we can create this type of auto switching tab or animated tab with Elementor and with the help of some CSS and JavaScript. And this is an advanced tutorial, so you have to write some CSS and JavaScript code, and I will provide all the code in the description, so you can just copy paste on your website. So let's get started. So as you can see, this is our tab, and on the left hand side we have all these tab title, and on the right hand side we have the tab content area. Okay, so we'll create this with the Elementor button and some section. The default Elementor tab widget doesn't work well, so we'll create tab of our own, and this will help us to create any style we want as well. So let's get started. So this is a blank page. In here we'll create a new section, and in this section we'll create two columns, because for the left column we'll use our tab title, and on the right column we'll insert our content. Okay, so let's duplicate this column, and for the left let's set the width to 25%. We have to provide custom class name for our column. So for the left column which holds our tab title, let's give it a class name of tab wrap. I'm calling it tab wrap. You can call it whatever you want, of course. And for the right, let's call it content wrap. So content wrap. And for the left wrap we will insert buttons, Elementor buttons. This button will act as a title of our tab. So let's insert the button in here, and you can design it whatever just like you want. So in my case I am just adding some basic design, make it a little big, large. Let's call it explore, and let's set our background color to white and text color to something like this, black. And we can also remove the border radius and can add some shadows as well. So this is completely up to you. Okay, so this will be our first tab title, and we also have to provide some CSS class name to this title as well. So I am calling it tab. Let's duplicate this tab 4 times in our case. If you want 5 tab, duplicate this in 5 times, just like that. So for the second one we'll call it about us, and let's change the icon from here. So now all of our tab title is set. On the right hand side we'll insert inner section in here, and each of this inner section will act as a tab content for our tab title. So if we have 4 tab title on the left hand side, you have to have 4 inner section. Okay, so each tab title will link with each of this section. So now let's select this inner section, and let's give it a class. So I am calling it a box. You can call it whatever you want. So in now for this content area, let's give it a left margin of 30 maybe, and let's add a border box shadow, so that it looks a little bit nice. Okay, so now let's save this and let's check how it looks. So this is how it looks, looking pretty nice. So now in this area we will add our content for our tab. So first of all, let's add a title for a dummy title. And let's add some content, of course. So this will be some text, make it column, add some videos as well, so if you want. So you can insert whatever you want, obviously. So now let's duplicate this 4 times because we have 4 titles. So let's duplicate this 4 times. Not this. Okay, so we need to insert this content inside this inner section, obviously. So now duplicate this 4 times. So now all of our content is ready. I'm just changing the title so that we can at least make out the difference. Okay, so these will be our 4 section. So now let's move on to the CSS section. So we need to write some custom CSS. So I am using the plugin simple custom CSS JS. I have a tutorial about that, so you can watch how we can use that. Install the plugin, and we have a custom CSS file in here, and we'll write CSS in here. So first of all, we need to target the tab, this tab button. So let's target our tab, and we'll add in here, as you can see, we have a progress bar under the. So we'll add a progress bar in here. So we'll target the tab, and we'll add a after pseudo to it. So tab after, and for after we must have a content. So in our case, content will be blank. Display, we set the display to block, and we have to set our border. So in our case, the border will be at bottom. So border bottom 3 pixels solid. So if you want border on the top, border means this progress bar on the top, so you can add on the top. And I'm setting a custom color in here, so you can change the border color in here, obviously. Now, and after that, we need a transform CSS transform property, and we'll transform scale X, and we'll set it to 0. So the scale X of our transform property will be 0. Then we'll add a transition so that this animation happens smoothly. Okay, so we'll add transition, and we'll transition this transform, and we'll set in 0 millisecond, and ease out for our after. Now we'll set the value for our after when our tab is selected. As you can see, when we have active tab, our progress bar is progressing. Okay, so let's call it tab.active. We will add this class later to our tab. So tab.active after. So when the tab is active, we will transform again to X. So transfer scale X will be 1, and also we need to transition transform. In here we have to set the time, so how fast this progress bar will be filled. So in our case, I'm setting it to 5000 millisecond, that means 5 seconds. You can make it slow or fast according to your needs. Obviously you have to match it with our tab switching as well, so we learned that in JavaScript section. So for now I am setting it to transform 5000 millisecond, and in this case will be ease in. And we also need to set the transform origin as well. So transform origin we'll set to 20% and 50%. So let's place it in here. Okay, so the transform origin 0% and 50%. So now our tab active is also done. If we look at this, when the tab is active, we have a nice background color and all the text are white. So we also have to set this. So now let's target this one, tab.active, and we'll target tab active A. So if we inspect our tab button, as you can see, all the button is wrapped with the A tag. So we'll target this A. So tab active A, and we'll set a background color. So background, and set the background color you need. So I am setting this background color. So this background color will be this one, as you can see, the purple color. This is the code, and set it to important so that it overrides the default Elementor settings. And we also need to set the text color, so the color will be white, and also set this to important. So now our CSS is partially done. Now let's go to the JavaScript or jQuery part. So I am using the simple custom CSS.js plugin, so I am putting my jQuery code in here. So make sure your code loads in the footer of your theme, and if you use this plugin, make sure on the right hand panel this option is selected, the second one in the element. This makes sure your JavaScript will load on the footer of our theme. Okay, so now let's get started. So first of all, we need the jQuery document.ready from this one, so that all of our code inside this document.ready will execute only when our document is fully ready. Okay, so inside this we will write all of our jQuery code, and we will use some functions and some variables. So if you don't know what is variable or what is functions, don't worry, just follow along, and I will provide the code, so you can just copy paste. Okay, so first of all we need 3-4 variables. So let's call the first variable index, and this will count our tab number, etc. So we'll set the index number to 0 for the initial value. Let's set another variable called delay. So this will set our timing of our tab. So 5000 means 5000 millisecond means 5 seconds. So after each 5 seconds this tab will switch. So if you want 10 seconds, so you have to put 10,000 in here. Okay, so we'll talk about this later. So we'll set the initial delay to 5000 millisecond. Then we'll select our container of our tabs and also all of our contents. So if we inspect our tab element, as you can see, we have added a CSS class to tab underscore wrap. So we need to target this Elementor widget wrap. Okay, we need to target this Elementor widget wrap just next to tab wrap. And if you have this Elementor column wrap, we have to select that as well. So if you don't have this, you can just target this one and then target this one. So let me show you how we can do that. So let's copy our target wrap, and I'm calling it tabs, $tabs. These tabs will hold all of our tabs. Okay, so we'll use the query selector. So in here we will have tab wrap, then put an arrow sign. That means we want to select select the class just next to this tab wrap. So just next to tab wrap we have Elementor column wrap. So copy this Elementor column wrap. If you don't have this, don't copy it, just copy this one. Okay, so Elementor column wrap. Then we need Elementor widget wraps. Okay, so now this will select the Elementor widget wrap just next to tab wrap. Okay, that is perfect. So we need to do this same for our content as well. So let's duplicate this and let's call it contents, $contents. We don't need this $sign. I'm just naming it this like that, so don't worry about this. So for our contents, if we inspect our contents area, you will see our content area also have a custom class name called content underscore wrap. So we need to target that. So we'll target content underscore wrap, then column Elementor column wrap, then Elementor widget wrap. Okay, same just like the previous one. Okay, now this is selected. Let's create another variable called interval. This will hold a set interval function that will run something after certain time. So this set interval runs something after certain time. So we want to switch our tab after this time, so we need to set interval. Then the function, we'll call it rotate. You can call it whatever you want. We have to create this function later, so I'm just give it a name for now. Then the time, so in our case the time will be delay, that is 5000 milliseconds, so delay in here. So set interval rotate, this is the name, you can name it whatever you want again. Then the time. Perfect. So now we need to add some function to each of our tabs. So let's target our tab wrap that we have already targeted. So tab wrap, then inside the tab wrap we need to target all the tab. So remember this tab class we gave to all of our, let's do this, all of our tab title. Okay, each of our tab title has a class name tab, so we need to target tab wrap tab. Okay, then for each tab we will run something or do something, so we'll call dot each. Then inside the each we will have a function, and we can pass a variable inside this function. I'm calling it I, you can call it whatever you want. Okay, so function, and inside this function we need to set this means this one. Okay, so this dot click, so if someone click any of this tab then something will happen. So what will happen, we will set this in here. So if you click any of this, we will run this function. So this function will do something. So what it will do, we will set the index number to this one. Okay, so in this variable, so that we can count. So when someone click, the index number will be I, this variable. Okay, so if we click the second one, this will be, it counts, it starts with from 0, so 0 1, so this will be 1, this will be 2, this will be 3, so that we can keep track of our diffs. Okay, so index will be I, and then we will run another function called switch element. So you can also call this whatever you want. So this function we need to create later. So this switch element function will do all the things we need to do, like switch the content, make this container visible or hide, etc. This function will do everything. So that part is done. Now we have to create this function, this rotate. So what this will do, let's say we are on the this tab. So now what will it do, when this tab is finished, it will go up to this first one. So we need to create this one. So now let's make it a function called rotate. So this rotate, obviously, and in this, first of all, if this rotates, we'll increase our index. So this will be increased every time this rotates. Okay, so now we'll set a condition. So if this tab length, this means we have 4, so that means 1 0 1 2 3. If we reach to this end, we will set this index to 0 again, that means to the top. Okay, so we'll add a if condition in here. So if index is greater than or equal to these tabs, means the tab container, this holds all the tabs. Okay, so this tabs dot children then tab, so that means select all the tab inside this. So the children's means these children. Okay, and then we will find the length. So we will calculate the length if the our tab length. So number of length is greater than or equal to our index, then we'll switch. So how do we switch? We just set this index value to 0 again. Okay, so that will rotate to this one. That's perfect. So when this happens, we also call this function so that everything runs again. Okay, so now everything is done. So now let's call this hard function or complex function switch element. So like function switch element, and inside this all of our mechanism will happen. So first of all, we will stop the interval. So we have started an interval in here. Now first of all, we need to stop this interval so that it doesn't happen stop right there. So we'll call it clear interval. This is interval function to stop this interval, and inside this we have to put the name of our interval, so that is interval. So we stop this, then we will remove all this active class if there are any. Okay, so we have added the active class with some style in here. So first of all, if there are any active class, we will remove this. From where? From our tab, this one, this tab. So how can we select that? We can just copy this one, tab wrap, and inside this we can just type tab. So that means tab wrap, widget wrap, and tab. Select the tab and remove class. We need to remove this class. Which class? Active. So we need to remove this active class. Same for our content. We need to remove all of this content class from our content, and we'll do it with some animation. So let's copy this content wrapper that holds all the contents, and inside the widget wrap we'll target box. This box is the class we gave to our content, so this is the box. Okay, so in here then we will add fade out to give it a little bit of animation. Fade out, and we'll set 300 milliseconds. So with 300 milliseconds this will fade out. That's perfect. Now we will target these specific tabs. So when you click this specific tab, we have to show this specific content, right? So we have to target this specific tag. So how we can target that? That is also very easy. So let's give and let's call a variable called $tab. You can just call it tab, and then how do you select the tab? So that is very easy. We have already children in here. Just copy tab.children tab. So these tabs means this one, this wrapper that holds all of our tabs. So we will target the children of the tab, and this means it will select all the 4 tab we have, 4 tab title we have, but we want only a specific tab. So this is the number 0 tab, this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3. So we have counted this with our index, right? So we will now select this with our index. So .tab .eq, and inside this eq we will put index. So it will select the tab based on our index number, right? Perfect. Now we need to target that variable and add a class to it. So this tab.add class. Which class will add? The active class, because all this CSS and everything is applied to our active class. So this $tab.add class active. We just need to do the same thing with our content. So in here we have this children tab. In here, instead of tabs, we'll have contents. So contents dot children, and in here the name of our section is box. Box means this one, so this class. So content children box dot eq index. Then we can just, instead of fade out, we can add a fade in, but we'll apply a delay first so that it happens a little bit delay, and then we'll, instead of fade out, we'll add fade in, so it will give us a nice animation. So now everything is done, seems to done, and everything, when everything is done, we'll also start the interval again, because when everything happens we need to start our tab switch again. Okay, so just copy paste this interval in here. So now let's save this and let's see if anything works. Let's refresh. Nothing happens, seems to nothing happens. Okay, after some delay, as you can see, our tab is actually working, but the first one is not working. So why is that? Because first, if we refresh, everything is visible, but we want only the first one is visible when it is refreshed. Okay, let's select our first of our content that will be visible at first, and add a class called first box. Oh, this will be first box. Okay, so let's save this, and for the first box we need to add some CSS. Box with the class name first underscore box. If our box has a class first box, we will have a display block. Okay, if we don't have any, let's duplicate this, we will have display none, so that all of our box is hidden, only the first box will be visible. Perfect. Let's save this and let's see if anything happens. So now our first content is visible and the tab is also working, but the first tab is not active. So if we load our page, the first one will be active by default. So how we can do that? We can simply just add a active class to our first element, first tab. So let's select our first tab, tab first. This will be our class for our first tab. So we will add a class to our first tab title called tab first, then target that tab first and add a class called active. So when we load our page, it already will be selected. Let's refresh. Okay, let's save this. As you can see, now our first tab is selected and the progress is working perfectly. Okay, so as you can see, everything is working perfectly. So but if we refresh our editor, Elementor editor, as you can see, everything is hidden. So how we can edit this? Because we have applied our display none to our box. So there is a solution for that. So if Elementor editor is active, Elementor add a class called Elementor editor active to our body. So we can just target that and apply CSS. So body, we have to use the CSS not. If you already know this, that is good. So not inside first bracket, we will add the class of our Elementor editor. So this not means this only applies if this is not active. So when we edit our website, this is active, so this will not apply. So for the last one, we will remove this not and set the box display to important, and for here this will be none, of course. So when this editor is not active, the first box will be visible and other will be hidden. But when the body.elementor active, then everything will be visible. So let's save this and let's see if this works. So let's refresh in here first. As you can see, this tab seems working just fine. And if we refresh our editor, as you can see, all of the content are visible. So this was the tutorial how we can create our custom tab. And another thing, if we want to change the time, the progress time and the tab switching time, you have to change it in two places. In here, the delay, let's call it 3 seconds, 3000. You have to change this in here. Also in here, the active after CSS, you also have to change this one, because this is applied to the progress part and the JavaScript is for our tab switching. Okay, so you have to switch in two areas. Save this and let's see if this happens. As you can see, our progress is now happening way faster. So this was the tutorial. I hope you guys liked it. So I will see you in the next video.